Well, welcome back, everyone. We are continuing our series on parenting myths, and today we're talking about the third myth, which is that there are good children and bad children. I actually have a personal story about this myth, and it was something that really just impacted me so much when it first happened. But I work for an organization that primarily deals with at-risk youth, and so in one situation, I was with a client at the hospital. And I overheard the nurses who were reviewing this client's chart, sort of just talking about where this client was from. And they had looked at the school that the client attended. And one of the nurses suddenly goes, "Oh, I know that school. That's the school for bad kids." And I just kind of stood there frozen that's what they were thinking. And here was this client, this youth who was clearly in trouble. And I mean, these are people who are medical professionals. They're supposed to be, quote unquote, caring or compassionate. They were there to serve, and that was the attitude. And it, in many ways, it broke my heart, and it also just angered me. Because I feel like when we put this label on kids and on youth, we really miss out on everything else about them.
Yeah.
These nurses didn't know this client's story. They didn't know the things that had happened that had brought this client to that point. And I think about it, if I had been through what some people had been through, I would probably be in the same situation.
Yeah.
And so it was just such a lack of just understanding and compassion. And I think equally for kids who are in the quote-unquote good box, that can be just as damaging.
Talk about pressure.
Exactly, right? The perfectionism, the high anxiety, it's sort of like we see this, right? On one end of the spectrum, you have those really high achieving, highly anxious, super perfectionist kids, and at the other end, it's you got the delinquents and the oppositional, and it's like, well, really, it's the same issue, just a different side. It's the expectation that we put on them.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah,
I know with my son, who has oppositional defiance disorder, which I technically don't fully agree with that diagnosis, but he's definitely counter will. It comes up a lot, and he's been labeled bad by some, and so I feel that too. And even for me, sometimes in my mind, I wouldn't necessarily label him bad, but being very difficult. And I remember a psychologist saying to me that every child would do better if they could.
Yes.
And that really impacted me with my own son and some of the youth that we work with, realizing that a lot of these kids who are making poor decisions, whether they're normally making good decisions or not, that they would do better in that situation if they could.
Exactly. We do the best we can with what we have in that moment.
That's powerful to remember as a caregiver or a teacher or someone who's working with that youth in that moment.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of applies to parents as well, because if we're judging kids that way, good kid, bad kid, well, now we have a good parent and a bad parent.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
And I think that too is just equally as limiting and damaging, and how many parents have struggled with that label, right?
Oh, yes. I'm such a bad parent right now because I said, or because I did, or what's even more dangerous, like you said too, I am a good parent because my child behaves this way, or because I did this, and that's setting us up for failure too.
Yeah, it's just, I think it just really, we miss out on so much when we limit ourselves to those categories. And the realization that at many different times we're going to be both good and bad. It could vary by the moment, by the minute.
Yes.
Right? And that's okay, that's normal, that's human. And we want to be able to teach our kids to live within that fluidity. Right? That, you're going to have great days and you're going to have really awful days. And so how do you deal with that? How do you move through that, right? And so, this is a tough one and a powerful myth. And if you have a story to share about this or an experience, we would love to hear from you. And we just so appreciate you tuning in and can't wait to talk to you next time.